Hi everyone, and welcome to our literature review team presentation on atypical development in children and adolescents. Our team topics are the effects of stress and depression on adolescents and how mentoring by teachers and counselors can be a positive support in coping and developing strategies to navigate these atypical behaviors. Some examples of stress adolescents experience are daily life stressors, for example, family challenges and responsibility. Next, the challenges of living in poverty, not having adequate food or proper shelter or a supportive community structure. Next, academic pressure such as homework, studying and preparing for tests. And last, peer pressure, pressure to fit in, and stress of not fitting in. Next, let's talk about some of the maladaptive responses to stress that can be adopted by adolescents when they don't have the proper role models and support. They can become dysregulated. Symptoms of being dysregulated are anxiety, self-harm, high-risk behaviors, and extreme perfectionism. Reactivity, they contribute to destructive behaviors and irritability. Aggressive behaviors, which will lead me next into another maladaptive behavior, and that is depression. Depression is a significant atypical development from stress. Now let's look at some coping strategies to be implemented by teachers, schools, school counselors, and interventionists. Teaching self-regulation skills, teaching your child to set goals and ways to obtain them, and breathing through emotions, managing reactivity, thinking about responses and knowing their triggers, mindfulness and yoga, relaxing and learning techniques of how to relax, being aware of their body. And lastly, mentoring. This can reduce stress by enhancing confidence and self-esteem, being and encouraging and to empower our children to identify and achieve goals.
Depression comes with many negative symptoms. A lot of the time, people may think that depression is just feeling sad. They may believe that the feelings will pass or that it's normal. This is not the case. Depressive episodes last for months and have a high chance of reoccurring. Depression does involve feelings of sadness, but also much more. Depression can lead to loss of interests, loss of pleasure, and loss of motivation. Individuals with depression can have feelings of worthlessness and low self-esteem. In some cases, people may experience an increase in their aggression. Other aspects of life can also be affected. Depressed individuals might have their sleeping patterns disrupted, have low energy levels, and have a lack of appetite. It is common for people with depression to withdraw and socially isolate themselves from others. Negative interpretation biases also play a role in depression. These are when ambiguous emotional information are viewed more negatively than positively. Along with this, depression is comorbid with other mental health concerns like anxiety disorder, conduct disorder, and obsessive compulsive disorder. People who have depression are also at a much higher risk for attempting and committing suicide. This is a pressing issue, as findings suggest that 6.3% of high school students will have attempted suicide in the past year. There are some important warning signs and risks to look out for. Since motivation and interest are affected, children might show a decrease in their academic performance. These children might also start engaging in acts of delinquency. There might be use of drugs, use of alcohol, and use of cigarettes. Children who are victims of bullies are also at a greater risk for depression. These children might not have friends and could feel isolated. As mentioned earlier, high levels of stress also play a role. Females more than men's also experience higher rates of depression. One major risk factor is the parent-child relationship. Children who come from a single-parent household were found to be at higher risk for depression. One study also found that children who fear their parents or were abused by their parents were 3 times more likely to experience depression. It's important to acknowledge these and be aware, since depression is commonly overlooked in children and not addressed until a crisis occurs. There are some protective factors against depression. We should do our best to ensure that there is a positive parent-child relationship. It is also important to develop strong interpersonal skills. Children who experience peer acceptance and friendships are at a decreased risk. Children spend a large amount of time at their school, and making sure it is comfortable, accepting, and as stress-free as possible can help. This is where mentoring can come in.
Understanding mentoring. Mentorship refers to a personal development relationship that enables reciprocal connection, that conversations are created to reflect on experiences, make informed decisions, and act upon ideals generated, challenging, motivating, and inspiring. Mentoring basics. So research has documented that those who have been mentored receive substantial benefits, such as coping with stress of school and provide support for someone who has shared similar experiences. School-based mentoring programs can benefit not only the individual, but also the school as a whole by establishing social support networks that integrate caring adults from the surrounding community. This, in turn, is contributing to a sense of community in the school. Research indicates that such a sense of community, as reflected in the students' level of school connectedness, serves as a projector factor for a number of adverse behaviors. In fact, it has been suggested that school connection is the single most effective aspect of the school environment in predicting better health and healthier behaviors among adolescents. Effective youth mentoring should be before the global high-risk age of 14 and 17 years. More specific high-risk factors to be addressed include poverty, poor school performance, and involvement in the criminal or juvenile justice system. Now, more so believing in the mentoring, mutual trust is established, regulating contact and conversation, genuine belief in the process, and helps both personal and grow. Now, the principles of mentoring. No doubt, due to many benefits linked to mentoring in school setting, including relatively low cost and convenience to both mentor and mentees, school-based mentoring programs have increased. Now, where the relationship really goes on the connection between the mentor and the mentee. Now, it is suggested that good matches particularly influenced not only by the shared demographic characteristics of the mentor and the mentees, or the ethnicity, but also by the levels of shared interests. The type of activities in which mentor and mentees engage also appears to affect the mentoring outcome. Activities encourage the development of emotional and social support in a relationship, having a great impact on youth than doing activities that are informed in nature. In contrast, across ages, many school-based mentoring programs limit the contact between the mentor and their youth to the school environment. So in other words, they want to still have that close connection and rapport with the student, but they want to limit it on outside and make sure it's focused in the school environment. Mentors would appear to be in a good position to help them develop effective skills in coping, and then the uniqueness is the process of helping the youth navigate different types of stresses. Mentors may model and instruct youth in the skills that are taken that they can apply in a similar situation. Now, mindsets, skills, and attitude. So again, with the skills, research suggested that it could be of particular value for mentors to foster activities, so-called approach strategies for coping, such as seeking support and positive reframing and problem solving. So again, with the skill set is really changing that mindset and allowing the mentor to teach the mentee how to get through and navigate through obstacles. It's not so much you can't do, it's what you can do and what you want to do. How mentoring will boost mental health. Addressing external problems may role model effective strategies for living with mental health issues. Again, as well as by monitoring youth to keep them safe and ensuring they're forward in process and treatment, you want to also support that void of them feeling like they're isolated or their voice is not being heard. Exposure to new ways of thinking, that's one thing that definitely can help to strategize, to understand what resources and what strategies that you do have to get through stresses. Higher self-awareness, understanding yourself and how you relate to the real world and autonomy. And then giving and receiving feedback. Again, like any therapeutic treatment, having those conversations, understanding that the critiqueness that you will be receiving can really help and affect you in a positive manner. Hope for the future. Again, with having a positive and having a mentor to kind of guide and model, there is hope for better outcomes. Now, the question that we're going to propose to the class is how can mentoring positively impact an adolescent development and successfully passing through the identity versus role confusion stage of psychosocial crisis and mitigate atypical behavior stresses and depressions have on adolescents. We really want to see what the impact that peer mentoring or mentoring can have on this, role and stage that adolescents are going through, and typical behaviors that can cause those stress and depression.